Hello, I'm Dave Mowitz, and welcome to Successful Farming. On today's program, I'm heading to a sale to watch a Cat D5 sell, and then put a value to similar used crawlers. Then we feature a beautifully restored Ford Jubilee that machinery manufacturer Don Landoll grew up driving on his family farm in Kansas. The Shark farmer, Rob Sharkey, is back with his unique perspective on agriculture. And after these brief messages, we feature how the gift of precision ag equipment is helping a family farm in Ohio survive and thrive into the future. So please stay tuned.
Laura Howell is no stranger to precision ag technology. Yet the Ohio farmer knew she would have to grow her technology know-how and adoption to better manage her livestock and crop farm.
Here on our operation, we have a diversified livestock farm. We farm about 500 acres. We raise corn, beans, wheat, hay. My kids and I also feed out cattle. We have a flock of ewes. We're very active in FFA and 4-H activities. I have a pretty unique situation here. My husband passed away 3 years ago. I had to decide what to do as far as the farm and raising my kids. And I have a daughter that at the time was 25. I have a son that was at the time 13. And then we have a close friend, Sam Yoder, that I consider my son, that had worked here on the farm with my husband side by side.
So Dave, he was on the mail route when I was growing up. So I'd go out and meet him on his mail route about every day. And he wants to know if I was busy, if I could help him, bale hay, stuff like that. So I started doing that when I was like 13, helping him out. And after that, just kind of kept helping him through the years. And you have to know Dave, he was a very patient guy, taught, a really good teacher. And he's the one that got me in doing what I'm doing now. Is running a applicating spray rig.
My daughter, Lindsay, she keeps me on my toes, book-wise, helps with the banking. She also spent a lot more time with her dad. So when it's time to bale hay, she's my hay raker.
So been here my entire life. We always have had livestock running around, and I spent a lot of time with my dad here on the farm too. I always hated daycare. He knew that too. Nap time was not for me. So he'd come pick me up from daycare after he got done working for the day, and we'd come back and we'd be on the tractor, we'd be out in the field, we'd be scouting crops. So every single day has been about agriculture.
My son Justin, which is now 15, he's labor. He grinds feed. He cleans cattle lots.
Usually if we're baling, I'm on the wagon stacking, and if we're harvesting, I try to do as much in the combine as I can. I do most of the tillage. I like doing that.
I knew for us to survive here on a small operation that we needed technology, and we needed to keep young folks like what I'm raising right here on the farm and interested. I learned about precision ag technology through Evan Watson. He is now my son-in-law. At the time he was dating my daughter, and there was a competition with Ag Leader where you could possibly win $25,000 worth of technology to install in your equipment. Since I was a single woman farming with kids, I thought it would be a great idea to try to win that technology to install in our equipment.
To help her choose technology that would clearly impact her bottom line, Laura Howell turned to ag technology specialist Evan Watson for guidance on how to spend her $25,000 prize money.
So kind of with what I tried to do with her operation is give her the biggest bang for her buck. So what can give her the best ROI on her farm? So we tried to, what I recommended was implementing some type of section control on her planter And then also another seed monitoring aspect on the planter as well, because her previous monitor, it just showed population. Well, there's other aspects of a seed monitor that we could fine tune to make her planter perform better. Just this past year, I was up here this planting season with her, getting started. I think this was her first year actually planting corn herself, and she kind of was a little timid, to say the least. But when I rode the first pass with her, we noticed that one of her rows, based on what the Ag Leader in Command display was telling us, the singulation was just terrible on it. And I said, let's stop. We need to check out this particular meter to see how it's performing. Come to find out, we found that one of her brushes that does the singulation on the seed was misadjusted, whether that happened in the off season or whatever. We were able to get that adjusted and bring it back to its good performance the way it needed to be. Eliminating some of those point rows that she has is kind of another eye-opening experience. When you see that row shutting off on the monitor and then watch it come up out of the ground compared to its neighbors, it's kind of a nice sight to see. Also, with her combine, we tried to implement a yield monitoring system, so basically give us that report card at the end of the year, so to see how that planter performed and see how her overall crops performed as well.
I actually really like the yield monitor for the harvester, because I just like being able to see all the details on everything, and I've always liked seeing all the stats.
She also wanted to add a guidance system, which isn't always necessarily the biggest ROI on the farm, but it was something that she wanted, and it was kind of a nice necessity, and we added it, and she feels that it was a good buy for her.
Adding more technology to the operation is also providing opportunities for the next generation to realize their strengths and talents.
We definitely believe in diversification around here, and it's hard. I mean, this point in agriculture, no piece is truly doing outstanding margin-wise. So with the amount of diversification we have here on the rolling hills, we're never going to say that our yields are fantastic. We're never going to say that we're the fastest to grow out cattle. However, what we can do is say we're good at it, and we're going to keep being good. But what this technology allowed us to do was to invest in something we may not have had the capital to invest in on our own. So, it's all about cash flow and what can we afford to change in a certain year. Well, around here, we have hay going on, and if the hay baler breaks, we may have to get a new hay wagon that year, or we may need to put more cattle on feed because we've got the space this coming year. So sometimes large capital investments are not easy for a small operation like this to make. Well, thanks to Ag Leader, we had that opportunity, and it helps get Justin involved too, because this next generation coming in is going to be dependent on that technology. And the more that we can get them interested in agriculture and invested into the farm, that is how we continue the future of rural America. That is how we continue the small family farm, is by getting that next generation rolling.
What do you call someone that works on a farm? Do you call them a farmer? Do you call them a ranch hand? A while back, I caught a ton of flack on social media because I referred to my employee as a hired hand. I was videotaping him as he got stuck with the sprayer tractor. As I was sitting in the cab of the tractor that was pulling him out, and he was fumbling with the chains in the rain, I was sitting there on live Twitter just laughing at him. But that's not what people got upset about. What they got upset about was that I called him my hired hand. And this really took me back, because I never found that offensive before. In fact, when I graduated college and went back to work for my dad, I referred to myself as a hired hand. I even remember going into the bank to get my first loan, and they put down your occupation there. I said hired hand, and they wanted me to describe it. I'm like, well, there really is no description to it. I mean, I could be doing hogs one day, I could be doing crops the next day. It did bother me though, because I caught so much flack for it. So I actually went out to the shed and I talked to my hired hand, Dan. And I said, hey, Dan, old buddy, old pal, have I ever offended you by calling you a hired hand? And the look that Dan gave me was one that I'll never forget, because he looked at me like I asked him to wear a jumpsuit full of unicorns to work every day. It was the most awkward moment that we've ever had to date. It was a moment that really should never be shared between two guys, two people that work on a farm, nobody. It was awkward, but yet I had that discussion and found out that no, Dan did not find the word hired hand offensive. Now there's a lot of farms out there that have hired hands that have become part of the family. I mean, my dad had Bob work for him for 20 years. I mean, I grew up with him. He taught me a lot about farming. He taught me a lot about things that my parents probably didn't know about either. I mean, that's generally the case. A lot of times, the farm kids grow up working with the hired hands. One of my favorite stories about Bob was when my sister brought home 3 friends from college. And Bob went out and he found some baby mice. And he put them in his hands and he brought them over to him and he told them that they were baby pigs. And their reaction was, oh, they're so cute. They're so sweet. Look at them, how they wiggle around and everything. And then he just went on, he continued to mess with them. He told them that they were born in a pouch. The sow was like a kangaroo, like a marsupial. So somewhere out there are 3 girls yet today that think that hogs are marsupials. Thanks to Bob. So on my farm, if my hired hand Dan wants to be called anything else, that's fine. I mean, to me, he's a farmer because he has skin in the game. He's truly upset when something goes wrong. If we break up and we need a part, he's the first person on the phone trying to find it in the cheapest place. He's invested because he knows that my farm is directly connected to his job. I think a lot of hired hands out there are like that, especially ones that have been with the families for a long time. They are an integral part of the farm, and they're valuable. And a good hired hand will become part of your family. Now, if you've got a story of a hired hand that has become part of your family, I would love to hear about it. So shoot me an email at sharkfarmer.com. And for more videos like this, go to agriculture.com/TV.
Have you been looking to acquire a used crawler? Join me at sale to see what a 15-year-old Cat D5 with low hours sells for after these brief messages. Today on Steel Deals, I'm going to wander off the path of equipment we usually feature. Today, we're going to watch this Caterpillar D5N crawler sell. So why the interest in crawlers? Last spring, I received an email from a reader of Successful Farming magazine. He was interested in buying a good crawler so that he could do not only some earthwork on his own farm, but also contract out work to make some extra money. Believe me, with the price of corn and soybeans these days, doing earthwork may pay better. So I did some pricing research on cat crawlers and sent him the pricing results. It turns out he bought a Caterpillar D5N similar to this crawler, selling at a consignment auction being held by Steffes Group. What we have here is an LGP variation of this D5. It is clocked up just a little over 4,200 hours, which is a really decent amount of use for a 15-year-old crawler. It comes equipped with a 6-way blade, fingertip control, sweeps, 32-inch wide pads, and a power shift transmission. Plus, the seller states it has just 100 hours on a new undercarriage. So this would make a good used crawler for any farm or ranch operation. But I'm going to need some help putting a price on this D5, so I'm going to go find Tim Meyer of Steffes Auction and get his advice. Tim, we're looking at that cat crawler, and you're going to have to help me a little bit because I'm more familiar with farm equipment. Am I missing something, or is that just a great buy to be had?
Well, the D5N is an LGP, which stands for low ground pressure. So it's got a wider pad. That dozer, and when somebody's looking for a dozer like that, you want to check out the undercarriage, you want to check out the hours. And the way to do that is to probably get the serial number when it comes to construction equipment and run that by the dealer. Call any cat dealer and run that serial number and you'll find out that those hours are right, and 4,200 hours is all it's got on it.
Tim, that crawler is really appealing because it has less than 100 hours on the undercarriage.
That's right. This gentleman was a dirt mover. As you know, farming's a little bit tougher right now. Not as many people are doing dirt projects. He needed to downsize his fleet a little bit, and that's why it's here. But that dozer, obviously, he didn't necessarily intend on selling that. It's got 100 hours on the undercarriage, which is gonna be a long life for a farmer or whoever wants to buy it.
Right, and it comes equipped with a 6-way blade and fingertip control.
Wonderful. You know what? You can do waterways with that. You can fill in some ruts. You could build terraces. You could probably even build a pond. It'd just take a little bit longer, but as your own machine, what a wonderful asset on your farm.
Let's say I want to do some earthwork and do some contracting out of my neighborhood. That would be the machine to start doing that with because it'll sell for a more reasonable price?
I think that machine is an affordable machine. You know, the only thing that machine's missing is it doesn't have the electronic valve for the blade level. And that would make a difference to a contractor, but for a farmer, it's perfect.
So, if I get a call from my buddy in Nebraska that has been looking for a crawler, what would I tell him he ought to be bidding online for that?
Well, being you looked at it or you've talked to the auctioneer and you've definitely done your research, I think, Dave, that crawler's probably going to bring somewhere between 45 and 55, and I think that's a pretty good deal.
Thanks for that information, Tim. Let's watch that Cat D5N sell.
Hey, 51, they would have been the 2. Oh, yeah, I see you got your operator with you too. 52, 53. Hey, 52, 53, 52. Down 3. Hey, guys, need a little money. 53, now 4. Hey, would have been the 54. I'm 53 and 4. How about 53, 5? Now 54, now 54, 53, 5, 54, there they are, guys, 53, 5, 54, who's going to win? Hey, 55, now 4, it'll be the 54,000 bid. Now 54, 5, 54, 5, it'll be the 54, 54, 5. You got to pay extra for good ones, sir. 54, 5, 54, 5, 55, hey, 54, 5, 55, you're out. 55, $55,000 there, now 54, 5, $55,000 there, do you want it? 55, here, gotta go, here to be the 54, 5, 55, 55, 5, 55, 5, 55, 55, 5, 55, bid, 55, 5, there, down, you gotta be 55, 5, 55, bid, 55, 5, yes, no, 56, 56, 56,000 bid, I know we meant it that time, 55, 5, 56, there, sold it to him, 55,500.
Well, as Tim Meyer thought, this crawler would bring good money at today's sale, and he was right. I tracked down recent auction sales of 12 crawlers equipped like this unit. The auction prices ranged from $35,000 up to $60,000. And there was nearly a dozen D5Ns on dealers' lots with asking prices ranging from $59,000 up to $77,000. The average asking price of those crawlers was $66,000. By the way, Successful Farming is offering a great tool for pricing out equipment. You can get 2 free appraisals a month from The Authority on Farm Equipment Values from Iron Solutions. Used by banks, manufacturers, and dealers from across North America, Iron Solutions gathers actual dealer sales, auction purchases, and wholesale transactions on farm equipment built in the past 20 years. Iron Solutions is the place that dealers go to set trade-in offers and sale prices. To get 2 free appraisals each month, go to agriculture.com/whatsitworth. I'll see you again next week on another Steel Deals Report. One of the famous names in farm machinery and transport trailer manufacturing, Don Landoll, shows off an heirloom that is near and dear to his heart, a Ford NAA tractor. So please stay tuned. Our Ageless Iron feature tractor this week is a 1953 Ford NAA. This would be a Golden Jubilee owned by Don Landoll of Marysville, Kansas. And Don, this was not your tractor originally. This would have been your brother's tractor?
My brother got it later on.
Don, of course, Ford introduced the tractor with the first 3-point hitch, the Ford Ferguson 9N. You had driven an 8N with the 3-point, and that was a big deal. But this tractor, what really marked it as being a major introduction was that it was the first tractor with live hydraulics.
With live hydraulics and the overhead valve and the 50th anniversary for Ford.
Right.
So they all went together.
So the live hydraulics, do you remember what was the advantage of that then?
Well, of course, the live advantage of hydraulics was certainly using a loader or using a rotary mower. You could step on the clutch and still have hydraulics. You didn't have to take it out of gear to run the hydraulics.
These tractors with the overhead valve, it got a horsepower increase as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they got up in the upper 20s in horsepower.
Yeah, and that was made it a little bit heavier plowing tractor. How big a plow would this thing have pulled?
Well, the everyday was two 14s.
Right, 214s.
But they did offer a 314 if you had the sandy soil or some bottom land or something.
Now you have had a history with Ford tractors. Your dad had an 8N. Well, he originally started out with a 9N, right?
Correct.
And then the tractor, the first tractor you drove was an 8N.
Correct.
And do you remember some of the equipment that he had that you got to run?
Well, of course, Dad, for the 9N, with the tractor, he got a 2-row rotary moldboard lister that Dempster built just north of us here. He had the 2-row cultivator. He had the sickle mower. He had a scraper to go on the back, and for $2,000.
Wow.
In 1946.
Yeah, but that was serious money in those times too. Well, Don, I really enjoyed talking about your NAA. I'll see you again on another Ageless Iron Feature Tractor of the Week. Join us next week for another outstanding show. I travel to Wisconsin to tour the innovative Olson family shop. This structure is not only essential to their farm operation, but also serves as a gathering place for the family. And then the engine man, Ray Bohax, gets into servicing a hydraulic master cylinder. I tracked the sale of one of the most popular skid steer loaders on the market, a Bobcat Model 773. And on All Around the Farm, we feature an innovative drill bit carousel any farmer can build and use. See you next week right here on Successful Farming. Hi, I'm Dave Mowitz. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit subscribe right here if you haven't already, and click that little bell right here to be notified when we post a new video. And click here to see more great episodes from Successful Farming Television.